Welcome to Spot. Welcome to the SPARK StartHer podcast, where we are helping inspire entrepreneurs into action. I'm Elizabeth Godey, and I'm here to fan the flame of your entrepreneurial spirit. Each week, we bring to you the inspiring stories of women trailblazers from around the world who have sparked change in their industries, powered their ideas into thriving businesses, and pioneered their ways to success. So, whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a startup enthusiast, or a seasoned business leader, join us as we delve into the journeys of these incredible women whose tales will surely ignite a spark in each one of us. My guest today is Lia Dunlap. Lia is an intuitive business architect with 25 plus years of experience guiding leaders to push past their upper limits so they can transcend doubt, find their purpose, and step onto their divine path to millions. Lia's inspired programs and practical services have helped thousands of clients in over 76 countries align their unique life purpose with their business genius and highest life vision. She combines intuitive knowing and practical leadership experience to help clients push past their upper limits for good, all while holding them accountable for beginning the big vision on their heart to life so that they can create the impact they were born to make. Lia, thank you so much for joining me today. I love having you as a guest. And the first thing I want to start with is a little bit about how we know each other. We met several months ago, I guess back in May, through a common group that we're in. And I thought it was a really, really special connection that we had when we met each other.
I agree. Thank you, Elizabeth, for having me here. I'm so excited to be with you. And, what I love about what you're creating here is, first of all, just so everybody knows, when you say 25 years, I always feel like, wow, that makes me sound so old. I
No.
started when I was 3, just kidding. But it's really what I value about what you're creating is a space for us as women to understand that it is a journey, and to be inspired and to look at that length of that journey and the people that we meet like you who we can connect with and really grow our businesses together. So I really love what you're doing here. So honored that you asked me to be on, and I'm excited to talk more. And yeah, the event we were at, I think those kinds of live events right now, especially for women, are such a great opportunity for us to connect, to go deeper face to face into who we really are as people and what we're trying to do in the world. So yeah, it was fantastic to meet you there. And yeah, I definitely felt like we had a special connection, heart to heart, as it were. So yeah, thank you
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, being an intuitive and sort of working in the space that you are, could you give our listeners a little synopsis into maybe the tangible, sort of specifics of what you do?
Yes, absolutely. I love to share with people why having my intuitive gift has been so valuable for people in the business world, and that's something that I'm so excited about having the experience of over the last 25 years. And when I started out, I worked in the corporate world. I was in sales and marketing and operations, and I was using my own gift to, as they say, climb the corporate ladder in like extreme fashion, to the point where I was paying attention and able to hear cues and nudges about what was going on in the environment around me and take advantage of that. So where people were getting let go, I was getting promoted. I mean, so I was utilizing that inherent gift that I have. And so when I left the corporate world after a big shift, I tried to separate the two. I said, okay, now I'm just going to do my intuitive work. I became a hypnotherapist. I was going to work on the inside. I was going to work with the people that really needed to make that inner shift. And what I started to attract were business owners and women leaders who suddenly had this extra toolkit which was to understand the environment they were in and to understand what it took to be aware of their surroundings and how to take advantage of their own intuition to help guide them through the process of making changes, of creating new businesses, of launching products, of growing themselves within their own organizations. And so for me, what it looks like when I work with a client, a really great story is a client of mine that we were working on a new system, a new product launch. And we were stuck at this one particular point where we were trying to figure out a software solution for something we were building with her. And one day during one of our sessions, the Oracle, which is the person entity that works with me intuitively, said, "You need to talk to Mike." That's what came through. And so I said to her, our nickname for the Oracle, O says you need to talk to Mike. We had never talked about Mike before. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I just thought I should call Mike for coffee." Turns out she meets with Mike. When we meet again, she says, perfect, because when I sat down and told him what I was doing, of course, he asked, he said, "I have that software and I will give it to you. I will give it to you." Now, if we had to develop this software, if we had to go out and build it or buy it, it would have cost probably, honestly, tens of thousands, if not more dollars. She was able to take that nudge, that inspiration, and that intuitive hit, that insight from O, and launch this product, which she did, and it went across the US and into Canada, all because of that one little hit that we got from O. So for me, I'm the shortcut for a lot of my clients who aren't really intuitively guided per se. I also believe that everybody has their own intuition. So my goal is to kind of create that bridge, using my resources, using their gift that we all have. We work together to create the practical steps with those intuitive guidance so that you can make that move faster and with more ease.
I just love this so much. And, you know, I mean, I know that you definitely have that gift because of sort of our interaction when I first met you. And it was certainly at a time when I needed that. And I can see definitely how as we'll just refer to the gift now, has played that role, not only just sort of with people that you're just meeting, but also, you know, people you work with in business. So you've worked with clients across 78 countries, and can you talk a little bit more about that? Is that were you led by sort of your own intuition to expand to those markets, or is it just because everybody who comes in contact with you just feels your amazing spirit and just directs you in those places?
I would love to say it's that piece end, right? It is a lot of that. I would like my whole life, honestly. If people sit next to me, my joke is always, if you're going to sit next to me, be prepared for me to blurt some insight for you from O, because she'll be like nudging me the whole time, like she needs to know, or they need to know this. I'm like, okay, there's that. And honestly, this is the beauty, I think, of the work that I do as an intuitive business architect, is I look at this landscape and I ask myself, how can I get the message out? How can I reach more people? And I was directed to do that through O in 1999, 2000. No, I think it was later. So it was probably 2008 when I actually launched my first international product. And so I went onto a platform and was able to basically utilize the book that I wrote and create a course from it. And we sold it in 76 countries. And so with that, we had the capacity to show them these tools and techniques that I work with my clients on every day. And that's what O had directed me to. She's like, you need this work needs to be in the hands of more people. And I remember saying, honestly, I'm just I can only do so much. And so I said, show me the way. And this was really kind of early on in the launching of online courses. So I had believe me, people, if you're listening to this, I had no idea what the heck I was doing, but I listened, right? And so to me, that's where that kind of dance goes. I listened to the guidance And then I ask a better question, which is what I also tell my clients, ask a better question, not how, but what can I do right now to get closer to that? And so I did. And every time I said something like that, someone would pop up and say, oh, well, you can do this. I'm like, okay, I'll go do that. So I ended up launching on a site called Udemy or Udemy, depends on how you want to say it. And yeah, the course took off. We were in 76 countries. We had a platform for all of that. I have since pulled that back to be more of my own proprietary product line, but that's kind of where it launched, and where we were able to get lots of great feedback from people about utilizing the course material, utilizing the information from the book. And really, I was just so honored to see people giving me feedback and testimonials about how they were actually able to use that information in their own lives.
Yeah, I love that so much. What was the name of the book? Is that still in print?
It is. It's called The Power Plan. And you can buy it anywhere you can buy books. It is available, obviously, on, I don't know, we're allowed to do that, the
Yeah.
Amazon. Okay. I'm all very cautious. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So yeah, you can download it right now. There is an ebook version. I highly recommend the physical version. I tell people that because it has a workbook aspect in the back, and I like a good journal. So I want you to write in my book. That's what I want you to do. Get it out and
Yeah.
write.
I'm a big fan of actual physical books too. I'm surrounded by them in my office. And I'm not, I think part of it is I retain information better also when I read a physical book. So when it's something that I feel like I'm going to get a lot out of, I just find that I get more information there.
Yeah, I'm a
Um,
highlighter. Like I
yeah.
need to like get in there and work through it.
And
Yeah. So
like dog ear corners and yeah,
yep.
exactly. Exactly. Well, I love that. Um, so okay, working through this. So you launched this course. You are in 76, working with people across 76 countries. And you decide at some point you're gonna pull this back in and make it a proprietary system. What are the ideas that you had in what was the catalytic moment or the catalyst that made you go from using sort of a software or platform that was already made to bringing it in-house?
Oh, that's such a great piece. So once I got to that level, what I noticed was there wasn't I didn't have the capacity to get access to it for people quickly. Like they had to like go down and become a member of the platform, and then and so I was like, I just want, I'm not exactly the most patient when it comes to delivery of things. And so I was like, I want people to go like, yes, I want it now, and I want to get in now. So I looked and I searched for ways to make it simpler, and there was just too many structures within the layout of that platform at the time, for me to really tailor it to the people that I wanted to reach and to make it more accessible with greater ease. And frankly, bottom line, as a business owner, the return on the investment of like paying for this product to be hosted and all of this, the revenue markup and their percentage cut was so huge that if I looked at my business and said, this is a function of my business, this is one of my business legs, this is not producing at the level it could be if I took it inside and sold it directly. So it's a little bit, like I said, I always do like a little bit of both. I do a little nudge of like, is it time? Is it not time? And then I look at the basics. I look at the foundations of the product line itself. And if it's valuable and it's making money, great. And if there's things we need to do to adjust to allow it to have a greater profit, I want profit centers. I'm still a business owner. So those were some of those decisions I had to make. And frankly, the flexibility to do what I want with the product was kind of the ultimate piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, I think a lot of people have fear of technology and developing things. And it's certainly very easy to use tools that have already been created. And there's, some security behind that as well, right?
Absolutely.
So if you were to give recommendations to people on sort of developing it, what were your biggest lessons learned in developing your own technology?
Oh, so I will tell you, all that, you know, I always say I know enough to be dangerous. I grew up like when I was in the corporate world, I was in the original computer era when computers were created. I actually helped run a computer company back in California. So I knew enough to be dangerous, which means I kept saying like I could just put this together myself. So my number one suggestion, even now to clients, is your gift, is your strength, right? The thing that you make the most money from doing worth you sitting and fighting with a computer program to try to make it work. Because I guarantee you, chances are, if you look over your shoulder like I did, I could have paid someone to do what I did a lot less in the end than I ended up spending time wise. So that's the number one thing. Like, just put those numbers down. Sometimes we get really like, I can do everything. I think women do that, unfortunately, all the time. I can do it. I can prove that I can do it. And I'm like, yes, you can, but do you need to? And more importantly, for me, that piece of knowing when, if there's a tipping point here, it's that I can look at things now and say, is there someone who can do this better, faster, and for less? If you put your dollar, your value as even the CEO, the founder, the owner, the practitioner, if you put that number against that scale, I'm guaranteeing you're probably going to find out that the answer is yes, there's somebody that can do it for less, faster, and cheaper. So that's the thing I look back and look at, like, I could have gotten a lot further. The other caveat was, even as an intuitive, the work that I create often comes from this inspired place. And sometimes the timing just isn't right. So the one thing I've gotten much better about is doing that market research beforehand. Even if you love an idea and it sounds so amazing, it might not be the time, right? So keeping some of that juicy stuff in a notebook or a journal, I'm a journal fiend, and saying like, here's an idea, write it all out, test it. And then when you're ready and the time is ready and the people are there, you've got it. But oftentimes I think we kind of jump the gun because we're so excited, or it's just such an amazing idea. And I think that can also cost us time and money as business owners when we're not really paying attention to what the market is ready for.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think you've sort of touched on two really, really good points. Number one is, sort of, is the market ready for this? Like, there is such a thing as being too early. Unfortunately, iPods weren't the first MP3 players, for
Right.
instance. And I think the next point sort of is this idea a little bit of pivoting. So and I think sometimes people think a pivot is like an about face, right? Like a 90-degree turn or something big like that. But really your pivot came in the form of, hey, I'm not going to keep paying all this money to a software that's like not satisfying everything that I wanted. And instead I'm going to, figure out how to build it on my own.
Yep.
And so when you look back across this, the 25 plus years that we're not giving any specific numbers to at this point, when you look back across your career, what would you say has been the biggest surprise for you?
Oh, that's such a great question. What the biggest surprise, I think, over the last 25 years for me has been the understanding that it actually never changes. The core of being an entrepreneur, whether it's year 1 or 3 or 10 or 20, that the core stays the same. And sometimes we want to kind of reinvent the wheel every time. But if we go back to the basics, we're just moving, we're circular, what is that? It's a spiraling up. And so the core is always the same. And if I remember that and don't get so far ahead of myself, then we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we have to have a strong core of what we're doing and why we're doing it. I think that's it.
Yeah. I love that. And especially coming from sort of your background and you having the benefit of being very in tune with O, you can probably really see how clear the core, remains the same. Whereas,
Yeah.
all of the rest of us are like, no, it's different. And you're like, yeah, it's the same. It's the same with a different lipstick.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's just different dressing of the same, but you can get really good, right? It's like I think we get bored if
Mhm.
we're at all creative, which most entrepreneurs are, and we think we have to reinvent everything. But even the tools and the resources we get to, bottom line, it's like you're bringing a product, you're filling a need, you're receiving revenue. Like those pieces of doing business really never change. They're the fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, what would you say has been the biggest success that you've had?
Okay, well, so outside of my child, so we're just because he likes to watch my interviews, so I love
I
you.
love it.
Outside of that, I think the biggest success, honestly, was when I was able to do my first international retreat. It changed the face of the work that I was doing in a way that nothing else could have. When I learned more about the intimate relationship with my clients and building that as something that would last for them and for me for years to come. So when I moved into that level, the very first retreat, it was very tiny, but it's still my most favorite because it changed me and my business for the better forever.
I love that. Where was your first international retreat?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. My first retreat was at Koh Phangan Island in Thailand. It was a tiny little island. We took a 2.5 hour boat ride to get there. And we had bonds, which are little houses on the beach. And literally we're in just walking steps from the Andaman Sea. It was incredible. And we got to actually do our work in the retreat on a little hut on the ocean. It
Yeah,
was
I love
lovely.
it. I
Yeah.
love that so
Yeah.
much. Uh, did you when you were planning that retreat, and you said that it was small. I mean, I can imagine sort of getting to a remote place would be more difficult for the masses of people who probably wanted to be there.
Yes.
But I would think that from a learning perspective, and certainly this could be just me, but I would think from a learning perspective, it allowed you to get a lot more tangible learning from the people who were there.
Right. And I have a client, one of the reasons, like I've been, people, my coaches, my mentors, like, these could be so big. I'm like, I'm so clear now, and reflecting even on that one, that the smaller, the more intimate, the better these days, because so many people get lost. And so that breadth of time we had together where we could go really deep on things that were really blocking them from getting their success, we had space together, we had time together, and we had that literally that one, we had that complete disconnect from society for a good 10 days to really be focused on our visions, our ideas, our plans, our dreams without distraction. And to me, that has continued to be a cornerstone of the retreats that I lead. I try to find places that are a little off the grid on purpose so that people aren't focused on like, oh, I'm going to stop in the middle of this, run out and make a call, make a deal. Like, no, you're going to be here. You're going to be present. I like to say, like, be here now. That's what we're about, because that is where you're going to really deeply connect with the why of what you're doing. And then we'll talk through the how, we'll talk through the steps, we'll talk through the planning. But so often I think people forget that very first step. And then they're just running a bunch of stuff and throwing spaghetti against the wall. And it's not connecting with who they really are. And for me, that's the cornerstone of what I do, is finding out what your purpose is so that you can actually fulfill it in the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that very much. And uh, I know that you do some very exclusive events for your clients. Do you want to speak a little bit about your VIP days or?
Yeah. So my clients, I have this opportunity when we walked away from those bigger retreats. We would, we would tap into some things that people really needed to move through. And so I created a system for my clients where we do basically a 2-day retreat. They come in the night before, we stay all day, we work through things. And I look at it like a 360. We take a 360 view of who they are, what they're doing, and why they're doing it. And wherever need be, we support that. So for some of my clients, we dig into numbers and we crunch numbers for a day. For others, we talk about that vision. So it really is about a holistic approach to having balance on all the different levels of their lives and business so that they're strong and they're centered in what they're creating and that they feel like they can move forward with a plan that makes sense, that has some value to it, some actual action steps when they walk away, but they also feel resourced. So many of the women that I work with, I think oftentimes even women that I meet out on events, part of why we get away to these events is we need a break. we need to take care of ourselves. So there's always a lot of care with special things that we do. We always do some sort of event or activity to really connect to ourselves again and get some resourcing. And for different clients, they're really tailored to the client, depending on what they need and what I feel intuitively will help them to show up the next day at work and life wholly resourced.
Yeah, I love that. And so if people aren't, able to do the one-on-one type of VIP experience, which frankly, from the sounds of it, it just feels like everyone should be wanting to do that. What are the other types of opportunities that you offer for your clients?
Yeah, so this year we have a couple of different options for people to join us. We do have like a monthly, what I call my mastermind group, which is Master Caterers Guild, and those are for people that are really they've got some some business acumen underneath them. They're not really starting out, but what they really want is a community where they're able to talk through some of these things. For example, yesterday we were talking about international financing. We're talking about finding a boyfriend. We're talking about like the real works of really moving through your life at that level and how it's different for entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs who are very successful. They have different needs. And so having the space to do that, that's one way that we do that. The other thing that we do as part of that is we have kind of what I call like mini retreats. So they're 3 days, twice a year we get together and we do more like a little bit of the version of the VIP days, but as a group. And so it gives you that kind of the ability to step away, take some rest, have some fun, and do some work. It's kind of all encompassed. And then lastly, when you walk away, we give you some really great steps and tools. Like you walk away with a plan to do your work as you move forward in alignment with your purpose, in alignment with all of who you authentically are, and probably with some great new friends along the way, which I think is really good too. And those come twice a year. Like we have them coming up in October, and it's called Elevate, and that's a really fun piece.
Excellent. Do you feel, Lia, like the work that you do is something that predominantly, it's more of like a female, like in other words, females would be more likely to participate, people in your position would be more likely to be female, or is it really gender agnostic?
I would say that in the past, it's been pretty gender agnostic. I kind of started focusing more towards women, and I would never turn anyone away. I'll just say that straight out. Like I would never turn anyone away who is really attuned with the desire to know what their purpose is and create a life and business around it. Like that's the fundamental piece. I think the piece that really lends itself to being more female or woman business leader is because of the Master Creators Guild, because of some of the topics and what I found from the people that are in the group is that they like the ability to feel like they don't have to couch what they say and they don't have to perform in the group, that they can really just kind of let their guard down. So to that, sometimes I feel like that's mostly the women are feeling much more comfortable with that being more women only. But one-on-one work and work in like the retreats, those are things that I've had men join me on those retreats. I've worked with men one-on-one. Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't have a problem with that at all.
So a lot of where this idea of the Spark Starter sort of movement, the podcast, et cetera, is really encouraging, empowering, and giving confidence to women to start businesses. And you certainly have built a successful business. I mean, you've been doing this for decades now, which I think I can say that. And so you cannot have a company that spans decades if you're not successful in doing it. And if you were to look back on your career and in the first moment that you decided you wanted to start your own business, what are all of the things now looking back after 25 plus years that you look back and you say, I shouldn't have been afraid of, and
Oh,
I wish I would have done more of?
ooh, I love it. So I will tell you that I think about this often. And I just met with someone who was my age when I started. And here's the confidence piece, I think was the biggest part of our conversation, which is she was really talented. She has a huge gift. And she was doing something like very muted version. And what I explained to her and what speaks to this to me as you're talking is when I was young, the gift that I have with O, I hid that for the first 15 years. I hid it in the background and I tried to work around not telling people about it because back then it was like, that's not professional and people won't take you seriously. And I wish I could go back to me then. And so it was really fun to have this conversation with her because I was like, let me tell you, if I was sitting across myself right now, as I am with you, I would tell you what you have to offer for the people that need it. You need to speak it. And you need to have the confidence to know, even if you're 30 and they're 55, I don't care. What you have to offer that 55-year-old at 30 isn't about the age. It's about that purity of wisdom. It's about that natural gift. And if I were to do anything, going back there to remind myself when I shuttered my first office, little plant in my arm, walking out the door, tears coming down my face because I was 30 years old and what did I know, right? But the vision I had then is what I'm doing now, right? So there is a timing, as we talked about before, but there's also a level of confidence you need to harness and hold on to. And when you do that in the gift that you have, or the talent you have, or the vision that you have, then you help that many more people along the way. And ultimately, that's what we're all here to do.
Absolutely. I love that answer and that sentiment so much. Now we're coming towards the end of our time, which I hate. But the first thing I want to make sure that we cover before we end our time is, how do people connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is to just hop online, go oracleonpurpose.com. You get straight to my website. There's a space there to connect. And if you really want to just know a little bit more about your purpose, I always offer for people to walk through a thought process with me through the Purpose and Prosperity Roadmap. And you can just find that online too, purposeandprosperityroadmap.com.
Fantastic. I love it. And one question that I ask all of my guests to leave our session with is, what is one word or short phrase that you would give as inspiration for other female entrepreneurs?
Remember that you are given your talent and gift on purpose.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely. All right. Well, Lia, thank you so much for being with us today. I've certainly enjoyed speaking with you and getting to know more in the depths of your business and your background. And thanks to all of you for joining us today on Spark Starter. It's been a pleasure bringing you the uniquely inspiring stories that ignite female entrepreneurs into action. I've been your host, Elizabeth Godey, and on behalf of all the awe-inspiring women entrepreneurs out there, I encourage you to not only dream big, but to ignite those dreams into action. Remember, every spark can lead to an extraordinary fire. So keep the spark alive, ladies, for today, tomorrow, and the vibrant future beyond. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to never miss a spark. Until next time, stay ignited.